now. Okay. All right, to the 20 people that are left here, my name is Tyree Robinson. I am the head of ecosystem for Oraichain Labs. We are an L1 focused on AI DApps founded back in 2020. So we've been in the space doing AI and Web3 for a while now. Our main focus is finding out how we're going to bring transparency to AI on chain. So that's our main job.
My name is Nate Geier, co-creator of Bitte. I've been in this space for quite some time, cranking and realized AI can do all the things I've done in the last 5 years, and now basically opening an agent market to enable other people to build on top of that.
Awesome. Hello, everybody. Hello, people on the internet. My name is David Sneider. I'm one of the co-creators of Lit Protocol, which is a distributed key management and blind execution network. The system is used for a number of things, and we'll get some time to talk about some of those AI use cases, largely focused on private inputs, private outputs, and the use of secure hardware for doing private and self-sovereign training and inference.
Awesome, awesome. So starting out, your projects have existed for a while. I mean, Nate, we know each other from 2019, back in Berlin. And AI is kind of a newer topic, or at least it's come to the limelight in the past couple months. Has your product evolved in the last 8 months to take advantage of the AI boom, or has your product been part of the AI movement since the beginning?
Well, I'll just say that since we've been doing, I would like to characterize our involvement as being an early player in the space, but in 2020, a lot of people said that AI had no business interacting with blockchain, and I don't think that, obviously, from my perspective, that was ever true. But there were lots of different ways that it could add value. The evolution of generative as a great user interface has really changed a lot of people's the expectation for deliverables for the audience, right? For our end user. But it hasn't changed how we build products or why we're building products. We continue to explore every way that AI can enrich both the developer experience and the user experience, and all the different ways we can do that. The main focus for us right now, given that there is a big, huge boom in AI, is, again, we have a lot of great billions of dollars worth of Blackbox AI models out there. How do we bring all of that value to Web3 with maximum transparency, which is, I think, is still a very big topic to take on. So.
Yeah, for me, I think any transaction can be built using AI. Blockchain is still the star of the show. AI is the superhuman power to bridge the gap of getting normal people over to an open financial system. Eventually, I would love to see open LLMs running and doing its thing, but for right now, it's a black box. That's okay. If it helps build a transaction, having human-readable conversations with financial systems, and the financial system is just a quarter of what blockchain can do. This is the focus of where we're at. So yeah, we started as Mint-based in 2018. We created a new company, or a new protocol called Bitte out of sort of these findings. And so we're absolutely going all in on allowing people to do generative artwork, create drops. How do I create and bind all my inventory assets over to, because right now there's so many onboarding hurdles, right? How is a big fashion company gonna mint hundreds of thousands of their things so that people can go and search and find it? You can build agents to make that super easy. You can build agents to make finding those things and searching for those things really easy, but there's still a lot of work to be done. And yeah, so that's the idea.
Awesome. I would say not fundamentally, no, there hasn't really been change in the product strategy. The general idea of what we've been up to at Lit Protocol for the past 3.5 years is essentially Vitalik's insight of blockchains, which is to take this decentralized system and make it fully Turing complete and totally programmable. We've applied that same insight to the world of key management. The two things that have changed in terms of basically when the world changed after ChatGPT came out and GPT-3 came out, one is a definite sense of alarm as it relates to who owns data in the context of just the way that people are using these AIs today and the level of personal vulnerability that is being exposed to these Web 2 platforms. We already have an example of Facebook and social media walled gardens and the kind of like the net effect on society of the user having no access to their data and that being fully owned by the platform. And so there's a sense of urgency, I would say, that is alive in the user-owned data world as it relates to AI. And then the other thing is we've been investigating how to connect up H100s to the sealed TEE. That is one of the two components of the system for this purpose of kind of self-sovereign inference and training that we're discussing earlier.
Amazing, amazing. A few points that you guys touched on was Blackbox and open source and transparent data. In the world of open source, of course, there is the, is this on? There is the risk of, there's a whole new security vulnerability field in AI and large language and LLMs here. You touched on your project is working on kind of transparency of LLMs. In this world, is there a larger use case for there being more proprietary AI, kind of like retreating the black box, or more of an open source model but still secured that people aren't kind of messing with the LLMs and injecting stuff into users' interactions with it?
Well, okay, so I'm actually, a point that you just made is really important, which is talking about the data provenance situation, right? I have spent about 3 months this year. Every month I've gone down and spoken to different stakeholders in Texas, of all places, rooms of hundreds of 75-year-olds who are saying, and they're artists, and they're saying, how do I keep my artwork away from these LLMs? And I don't have the answers for them, but I always bring them and say, blockchain has the potential to solve these issues, right? And every time I leave one of these rooms, I have a bunch of people that you'd think would never be interested in blockchain or AI, absolutely fascinated and ready to ride with whoever provides that solution directly to them. So David, I'm going to introduce you to those people because they need you. But sort of going back to your question, there is always going to be a place for proprietary AI models. From our perspective, currently, we went from a place of looking at Blackbox AI as being an inevitability, aggregating those inferences, verifying them against the gold labels, our ground truths, and then using that to eventually provide some kind of signal on chain, whatever that might be. The problem is that's really slow and really expensive. And in that sort of evolution, we have looked at teacher-student model distillation as a way for us to take these black box AIs and create something that's smaller, faster, and more open, and that is sort of trained in a crowdsourced way. So we're both using all of that. Again, $290 billion in the last 5 years has been dumped into proprietary AI. We want to take all of that value and bring it into Web3 in a way that is suitable for the real business cases in Web3 and more open, right? So that's been sort of our take on allowing for those things to coexist.
Nice. Yep. Hello. Yeah, provenance. Awesome. I can go into that. So right now our goal is accuracy, right? If it's a closed box, that's okay. Eventually we can unhook, OpenAI and throw in a nice LLM that's open source and we can move these things around. But like you said, provenance is huge. So other problems that we're solving from the provenance world is how do we do indexing? Like we're going to start going to EVMs. So I'm sitting there going, oh my God, we have to run our own indexer. We have to kick so much more infrastructure into Geier to search all these things. But now you can actually go into ChatGPT and ask questions like, what NFTs are for sale? And then you can get the token IDs and we can build transactions straight from that. Get the provenance straight from it. It's a fascinating world we're jumping in. But also being able to give people proper reports of LLMs, building, can I dive into this blockchain and give me the whole provenance of this accurately? And it's, I'm quite excited for where things are heading.
I guess the only other thing to add, just to kind of ground it in an example, One of the teams that we're really grateful to be a technology partner with is Fox Corporation. They have a product that they've released called Verify, which is essentially like, it consists of a Polygon CDK chain for managing the assets and the licenses. The media content is stored encrypted with lit on IPFS, and then the intent in that system is to basically let Blackbox AIs consume media from anybody in an open way where anybody can publish to that network. So they're the 300th largest company in the world, so there's like definitely some momentum around things moving in this direction.
Amazing, amazing. So in the blockchain space, there's been a lot of work in the world of solvers, intents. It's kind of emerging in the last 6 months. And right now, there's been a bunch of searcher days, solver days at this conference. And these solvers are people kind of working day to day to figure out the best optimization for a DeFi product or a different product. Do you see AI potentially coming into that market and competing with those people who are working, or kind of making it better, augmenting it?
100%. Yeah, there's a team that was here earlier today called Sphere One that has been building with Lit protocol infrastructure, where it's essentially an LLM interface to create the intent, and then they simulate the transaction, and then there's no solver in this case, then the execution is automated, similar to some of the demos that we saw earlier. So it's not the pure intent solver view in terms of like the solver having a job to do, because in this case, the solving is done in an automated way. But the generation of the intent uses AI such that the user has a conversational interface for telling the system how they want their assets to move.
And just to hone in on that, in that case, is the case for open source model or more proprietary model?
In terms of the model, like that one, I believe they're using a closed model on that. I don't know for sure. I mean, this is an unrelated. Just while we're on the topic of closed versus open models, to me, where the open models get more interesting is less when there's one person involved and more when there's many parties involved. One of the promises, I think, of a truly open AI built on distributed infrastructure is what are the products that can be created with these systems that are not possible with closed AI. To my mind, there's really two. One is around user data, as we're starting to move more and more into a world where applications are writing back to a user's data store, whether it's in the form of like signed verifiable credentials, either stored on the open web or on the user's device. That one seems really obvious. The one that could be really crazy breakout for Web3 is the notion of a community-owned AI. So you can imagine an interest group like a subreddit that has thousands, tens of thousands, even hundreds of thousands of people contributing data, and then a user being able to interact with an avatar that is representative of all of that underlying data. And those type of systems, you certainly could build them in a closed context, but because maybe that data is being contributed in a bunch of different places and a bunch of different applications, that type of thing feels like a really good fit for open models with the centralized AIs.
And I'm going to take on the intent question, but I have
Please.
to jump in on this too, because this is absolutely huge for us right now. I think in the market fit of AI Web3, to really talk about where the world needs us to step in, we have, again, just from the art perspective, because I've been dealing with that community, we have hundreds of thousands of artists in Texas alone, and a national organization that's an advocacy organization that are literally building policy positions for 2025 because the copyright law doesn't help us at a federal level for AI generated content, but at the state level, they really, at least in Texas, believe that there should be royalties that go downstream to contributors to that intelligence in these models, right? And so blockchain is that solution. There's kind of no other toolkit that you can do this as elegantly with, where an individual contributor of their IP can now be a part of a data set and actually earn revenue. The other thing is really awesome side benefit of that is that whoever accesses that data set, because it's all on chain, can share in revenue downstream, and you don't have these huge upfront costs to access the data. So that's a huge and very exciting space for me. But to go into intent solvers really quick, I will say that we have been working on and just released today our AI smart router at Oraichain, which is a cross-chain router where a person says, I want to swap from this token to that token. Okay, simple. It splits liquidity off of every chain that we support and finds the optimal route between different pairs, different pools, and every single time you make a transaction, it's different based on what the liquidity is at that moment, right? It's not sort of, okay, this pool is better. It's like this permutation of different liquidity, 10% there, 15% there, is the better way to get price. And we've been able to, against other DEX aggregators, basically be 50% more efficient using AI there. Again, not sort of a proper solver system, but a sort of proof that AI is able to do it better than, than a lot of people can currently with intent solvers manually or with their own algos.
In the cases of when users are interacting with an AI to create a transaction of some sort, have you guys thought of like how to prevent like data poisoning or eclipse attacks just to avoid something else being injected and then they're signing a transaction in MetaMask that they actually don't know what they're signing?
Definitely. So we spit out 3 agents on our team, so we know nothing's malicious before we start opening it to other agents. We just created a playground where folks can fork an agent and mess around with their own system, but before that gets integrated into our system, we're now hyper-focused on checks and balances. So before a transaction is submitted, you can go and crank through all the function calls. You can run multiple transactions from a single prompt. Once our chain signatures go in, we'll actually be able to run multiple transactions on multiple chains from a single prompt. And the checks and balances there's a lot of it, right? Being able to say, well, if it's $5, it's $5. But if someone's trying to do a transaction that might be over, 500 or 600, you can look to the exchanges and figure out, some of their checks and balances. Hey, are you sure this is the right call? And we're actually building out, we did a proof of concept of writing out exactly what the user is going to be doing. So just from the function calls of what they're about to commit, we can spell out in plain language, hey, it looks like you're about to do this, that's going to interact with this, that's going to interact with this contract, does this all make sense? So it's going to be a whirlwind of how do we protect the users versus how do we ship code fast so that we can battle test the thing. So it's going to be a wild ride.
One other thing that I just wanted to sort of add is that because this is Chain Abstraction Day, I feel like we have to say it directly that AI, I believe, is the tool that's really going to eventually abstract away the interaction with chains, the underlying chains, both at the LLM layer and at the solver layer. And at the builder layer in a lot of things. I don't think we're there yet where we can trust AI to build everything, but if you feel pretty confident that we're getting there where you can trust it building transactions. So so that's really exciting. We do have one protocol that's building something fun on our network called Oraichain, and what they're doing is sort of a drag and drop interface to compose multiple stepped transactions across multiple products, multiple chains. So being able to buy, swap, lend, jump over to Tron, do something, jump over to Osmosis, do something, and then sort of execute it, even with some sort of asynchronous automation, all in one click, and sort of set that intent on its way. In that case, what I think is really awesome about them, as you're saying, is that there's a lot of visibility. You know exactly. You're creating the recipe. AI is telling you, this is the outcome. Here's a warning. You know what I mean? We're running a simulation. Here's a warning and tell you how you might want to tweak that recipe. And then, again, it's the user's discretion to execute it or not, which is important.
So you guys, all 3 of you worked in AI and Web3. And if an LLM is transparent, would you guys be willing to work for that AI or be part of, possibly kind of a controversial take, but be part of potentially an AI operating the company or even operating a higher level of government if the LLM was transparent?
I mean, generally the way I feel in terms of like new technology is to not be an early adopter. I'm happy to be a fast follower.
If the question is, will I take a job under an AI, or let an AI be my boss of our current company? I think that the answer is absolutely no. And definitely not in any time in the foreseeable future.
In a utopia.
Maybe we get there.
Or if it's a utopia.
Yeah, but ideally what I'd like to happen is that they built all of this on our collective knowledge, and we can just go sit somewhere and get paid some universal income, and AIs are doing their business, right? If we're going to that extreme, then I don't want to be in that office at all.
And almost like that begs the question at that point, what do they need us for?
EthCC, the conferences will just be in the cloud, and we'll just be on the beach.
Yeah, I'm almost 40 now. I think I've had a boss maybe 4 years of my entire life, and having an AI running me, I think at that point I just want goats and solar panels and be living in a bunker. So, but I mean, hell, it's getting there. DAOs being able to help operations, I'm all for that, and maybe that's where that heads. So let's go.
It's actually funny you say that, because I think governance is one of the biggest use cases of AI. I'm Cosmos ecosystem, Maxi, which is dangerous to say anywhere. I think we call it interchain now, but we have all of these, maybe 100 chains, all with their own validator sets and thousands of users, and you check the voting on a lot of these chains, you get very low participation from individual users, meaning that the vote is often left up to validators alone. And so there is, I think, an AI agent use case in governance for people to say, this is what I'm looking for out of my proposals, this is when you should automate my vote, and this is when you should come back to me and ask me what I actually want to do. And that two-way sort of interaction is really important, right? And where we don't want to automate everything, where we do want these check-ins where an AI says, we don't know what you actually think about this. Let's actually throw it back to you and make you think about it. Right now, there's no such alerts in Web3 governance, right? You don't get some alert that's saying, maybe you have it set up so, okay, I get an alert when Osmosis has a proposal, but you look at it and it says, whoever it is wants permissions to upload a smart contract onto a network, and you're like, I don't know, yes, or my validator already voted, I don't care, right? We have to fight that apathy, that governance apathy in Web3, and I think AI is a part of that.
One more push. Go Jaswinder for building that DAO agent. Let's get that DAO agent up and running.
So it's not controversial. I actually work in Cosmos, so.
Okay.
But no, definitely in Cosmos governance, it just blockchain was built on the premise of experimentation, and in my opinion, we've stopped experimenting with managing DAOs, managing governance. It's kind of become more or less one size fits all, because the general public doesn't really want to be involved, and this is where kind of AI agents could become interesting.
So we actually partnered with DAO about 3 months ago with the intent of sort of getting into all of that, into that mess. And I don't know, we're no closer today to doing it, because we're also sort of thinking about transparency of the AI first, and making sure that we really get that in place, and then going the next step. So hopefully we start to, in Cosmos ecosystem, make some strides towards that.
There's a project called Synthetic Senators that has a nice proof of concept. You go to the homepage, and there's basically different archetypes: George Washington, Mahatma Gandhi, Donald Trump, etc. And they have little descriptions based on how it's going to vote and how it feels about certain proposals. And you select one, and then your governance gets automated from there. But not at the point where there's the feedback. And I know we're just about out of time, but we're talking about governance of AI in a future scenario. The thing that I mentioned, a doom and gloom scenario earlier, but one thing that seems really exciting, maybe less related to Web3, but there's this really fascinating project. They're a nonprofit called the Society Library, and what they do is for any given civic conversation, they scrape the internet and reduce every conversation down to the fundamental claims and the evidence associated with the fundamental claims. And one of the fascinating insights out of doing this, to your point about what does that reciprocity look like with the people here in the meat space look like, is what comes out of that is, what are the right questions to discuss? What should we actually have as the dialogue? And those type of things in terms of these moral questions related to governance, related to prioritization, are things that, at least for the foreseeable future, an intelligence will not be, like an artificial intelligence will not be able to reckon with, most likely.
So what, you basically select George Washington, and then someone creates a vote, and then basically George Washington would vote this way?
Yeah.
Is the voter of the person selecting this is a George Washington vote?
It's using Lit, and basically from Lit, they're calling out to the OpenAI API, and then Lit is a programmable key pair that then is executing the vote.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fascinating.
Awesome. I think that wraps it up. We just ran out of time. Ilya's jumpsuit will have to come up and move to the next
Awesome.
one. Thank you.